welcome to the Weekly Artifact. This is a tri-weekly podcast created by two friends who met in undergrad and, against all odds, decided to keep talking to each other. I'm your host, Alex, joined always by my co-host who believes Lil Wayne does not get enough credit for his tenure with the Hot Boys, and that goes doubly for their producer.
I'm Justin. Hollywood moves fast. The hot takes of Letterboxd are less than a distant memory by tomorrow. We're here to slow down and recover the filmography that's been lost along the way in order to make sense of where the world was, where it is, and where it will be. To that end, we've selected a handful of films to discuss together.
Our comments are our own and are not associated with any institution. The show may contain explicit language or themes, so see the show notes for specific content warnings. Justin, what's the first film we're talking about?
Alright, so the first film that we're talking about today in this show that is being brought to you live, sort of. By live, I mean, other than that intro, there's no editing. But is part of a couple of films we'll talk about politics, and we'll start off talking about The Big Short as our first movie. So this movie came out in 2015, directed by Adam McKay. And I think we both really like this movie. It's about the 2008 economic recession and basically, and I guess spoilers for all the movies here. But yeah, basically they're talking about the plot revolves around this idea to short the markets before they crash. But because of a lot of corruption, the plan doesn't really end up working out, and it's just kind of a condemnation of that sort of period of history and capitalism that sort of led to that. I like it for a lot of different reasons, both the political message and also the writing of the movie. But I don't know. I don't know if you want to get some in here first, Alex. Or...
I thought you told me off mic that the only reason you like this movie was because Margot Robbie was in a bathtub.
It does have an interesting style where they go to these cutaway scenes of cameos of different celebrities explaining different economic concepts. Margot Robbie in a bathtub is one of those scenes, but there's other ones as well.
Shout out to Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah, he gets one. Which I think are really helpful for understanding concepts. Although I will note that if there's one complaint that people make about this movie, it's that it's too confusing for them to understand, which I personally don't really get because they do have those cutaway scenes that literally just basically stop the movie to explain stuff to you. And also, I mean, yeah, they... my favorite ones, they literally explain, subprime mortgages with Jenga blocks.
Right.
I don't know. To me, it's there's a little bit of a learning curve, and I think if you're have at least a base familiarity with what happened during that period, that will definitely help you. But I can't fault the movie if people didn't understand it, because they're explaining these complex concepts with literally wooden blocks. They can't make it much more simple than that.
It's still definitely dense, but I think if you're sort of paying attention and really, I will say the movie does ask you to pay attention, which I guess is a criticism some people can have, but I'm more on your side with that.
Mm-hmm.
But they do all. To be fair, though, they also do say if there's at least once, if not multiple times, or if this sounds confusing or it makes no sense, that's the point. As far as people being able to sort of manipulate the market. But you were saying.
Mm-hmm. No, that's true. There is part of the movie does revolve around the fact that the markets themselves don't make any sense. but I think they distinguish that pretty well. But yeah, I mean, I also just like that the movie revolves around these very distinct characters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it's very well written in that way, and and yeah, it just like basically there's four characters that if you see like the cover art, those are like the four characters it revolves around, and they each have their own sort of motivations and idiosyncrasies, and that really is what carries the movie forward. I particularly like Dr. Burry's character,
Mm-hmm.
who is just this very eccentric guy who is the main one that is, um, you know, understands the market and is trying to run this short sale operation. Um, so yeah, I just think it's really well written, and you know, if you don't have enough righteous indignation over that particular moment, I think this can help you get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I don't know. I'm like I guess I'm not surprised because this keeps happening. But for how I mean, well, I don't know. I don't even know how. I mean, the movie did okay in a box office. It made like $150 million, and it won some amount of awards. But like I don't know. I you would think or hope something like this would be a little more sort of radicalizing or something. Considering it's like I think like it was like rated as like 92% accurate, like which is like unprecedented and like even based on true stories, and like a lot of the changes were like pretty minor. So like I don't know, like it's sort of like buck wild that you're like, yep, this happened, and everybody's like, yep. And I mean, the movie even goes out of his way to be like at the end, like, and then all the bankers got jailed, right? No, one dude in like Sweden for doing the same thing that everybody else did. He just happened to be like caught holding like the bag. You know what I mean? Like it's just like there was no consequences.
Hmm. Yeah, I think part of it, people I have mixed feelings about Adam McKay as a director, especially after the Dick Cheney movie.
Yeah,
But
that's fair, I guess.
anyway, we should move on for the sake of our live studio
Hmm.
audience here into another movie that could potentially be radicalizing. Is 2019's Parasite.
Chrissy Teigen's favorite movie, so remember that.
I guess Obama said. Didn't Obama put it on some list or
Oh,
something?
you definitely. I think it was also on his like presidential like to watch red list too. So really, I mean, they get it, you know.
So this is directed by Ho, and it follows this family that basically, through some, I guess, underhanded tactics, all get jobs in this much wealthier family's home, um, and end up working for them, but eventually figure out that there's uh, well, so basically after they get rid of the last worker that they replaced to sort of get these jobs, she comes back and goes into this secret underground room, and that kind of kicks off the more, I guess, sensational part of the of the movie, um, and yeah, and then it just kind of follows their uh, this new how they resolve through that tension of this family living down there and these multiple families, and ends with well, I know I said spoilers, but it's probably I don't know if it's necessary to exactly spoil what happens at the end of the movie, but
I mean, it won Film of the Year. If these people aren't enough of a savant to Well, just like you mean, just like where like everybody ends up, or like the sort of big
Yeah, I'm
climax.
just saying. Yeah, I mean, I gave away one of the big twists, obviously, but I don't know if I need to say. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's necessary to say. I mean, we might end up getting there, but we'll see.
Well, I it was weird because I mean, you kind of said that it was. I don't know. I can't remember. I'm sorry exactly what word you used, but just sort of more, uh, sort of like sensational or whatever part of like with the underground living thing. Because I like knew that that was part of it in some capacity, but like I was watching it, and it was just kind of this weird, sort of funny, like I'm gonna call it a heist movie where all these like this family sort of like inundates itself as like all of the different workers for the family, for this like rich family, and then like all of a sudden you're just like, huh? Because I was like, well, then they live there or something, and then it really sort of doesn't necessarily take a turn, but it sort of like escalates very quickly. And I like I don't know. I guess what I still understand. Like I don't know South Korean culture, and I guess maybe Obama liked it because he hasn't droned them. But uh, like I don't. You just that classic class infighting is what they want out of the proletariat. You know, if they were just like, yeah, you can stay here and feed your weird husband, that's fine. But they had to come to blows.
Mm-hmm.
But oh,
Yeah.
the well, sorry, you're saying.
I was gonna say, the only thing I wish about this movie was that it was a little less bleak. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think, um, yeah, it very much ends with there not really being much hope for changing things.
Yeah.
Um, so I know I said, that could potentially radicalize, although obviously, as we pointed out, there's plenty of people who are not terribly radical who also like the movie, and that could maybe be a reason why too. I'm not really sure, but I think it still encourages you to sort of question why things are this way. And even though it takes place in South Korea, and there's some stuff that is very culturally Korean about it, I think people have written other articles and stuff about some of the moments that non-South Korean audiences might sort of miss out on. But I think it still also is very relatable for uh, an American audience and probably a lot of other audiences as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think yeah, and that it really sort of it really is a uh, bleak ending. Like it really sort of you're just like, oof. Uh, I don't know, but yeah, I think I don't. I guess I get why people why I mean it deserved to win Best Picture, and I guess I'm glad it did, and for the conversational parts. But yeah, I think um, I don't know. I guess it could have gone. I mean, any movie could have gone a number of different ways, but yeah, it was definitely sort of like you kind of end. You're just sort of like left sitting with it, which is not the worst thing. But you're just like, okay, yeah, it's really looks like because the son sort of just like his plan is to just like become part of like the rich people. You know what I mean? Like it's not like restructuring anything. It's just like okay, like to help my immediate like people I care about. I just need to become like a rich guy now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The only other two points I'll make about this, uh, one kind of a not super important point, but I would not have let that old housekeeper back in. I'm
No,
like, what good did they think was gonna come out of that? I mean, they know they did her dirty. They know they did her so
right.
dirty. Why would you then? And they know that she knows that they did her dirty. So I don't know what they thought was gonna happen when they let her back in. Honestly, not even as bad as I like. If I was the housekeeper, well, the show's live, so I'm not gonna say what I would have done. But
Ooh, I can't even say it. Ooh, I can't even say what I would have done. Ooh, just know, just pray for your grandmother. All right, but I can't even say.
uh, and then the other thing, I am shocked that no one. Oh, I won't say no one. Some people were, but how little discussion there was about that underage relationship in the movie between the son of the.
Oh, I mean, I had no idea how to gauge the age, but it didn't seem great.
Yeah, that scene, it was just completely unnecessary for the movie, in my opinion. I mean, I think some
Yeah,
people have like written stuff about that too, but yeah, I'm surprised there wasn't more. Especially when they didn't come to cancel Bong Joon Ho over that.
real Lolita, except Lolita's fine. This is the bad one. But yeah. Yeah, it was definitely yeah, yeah, as soon as the housekeeper came back, I was like, all right, this is going to be a weird bad tonal shift immediately.
Speaking of tonal shifts, we can
Whoa.
move on to the last movie in our politics corner, which is the 1992 film My Cousin Vinny, directed by Jonathan Lynn, which at one point I considered one of my all-time favorite movies. I still very much like it, although when I finally really like sat down to watch it uninterrupted beginning to end, because I'd always seen it like I'd seen the whole movie, but I'd seen it come on like it would always come on like
Mm-hmm.
TV, like Comedy Central or like one of those channels or
Yeah.
whatever. And so then I finally like sat down and just watched the whole thing. And there, I'll say the second act of this movie drags a little bit. But anyways, basically,
Yes, so does the legal profession, Justin, all right?
the movie um, follows this these two people go down south and I think
Ralph
they're from
Macchio? Ralph Macchio goes down south. I'm fucking respect on his name. The
there
Karate
was
Kid,
another
Justin.
person
There
there.
was another person, but the Karate Kid, for God's sakes.
Okay. Anyways, they go. They're from New York. They go down south. Get involved in a murder case.
Yeah, they get pulled over for. I don't even, was it for? Well, they just is it? They just think it's. Oh, they think it's for like simple robbery because they accidentally forgot to pay for something that was in their pocket. But they get pulled over on suspicions of murder.
Hmm. And then they have a lawyer played by Joe Pesci
His cousin
represent
Vinny.
them. Yeah, it's his cousin. Yeah, that's why it's called My Cousin Vinny. Represents them, and he's not a traditional lawyer, I guess, but does ultimately manage to beat the case, as it were, um, with help from his partner Marissa Tomei, plays Mona Lisa Vito, and it's a comedy.
Yeah.
So, which I think is a pretty funny comedy,
Mm-hmm.
um, especially for uh, older comedies don't always hold up. I think this one holds up pretty well. I mean, it's not that deep, but I think the reason this movie works to the extent that it does is because it's very legally accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently,
Yeah.
I'll let you jump in there.
Oh God, I hate it. Yeah, I mean the court, like, oof. But the court proceedings, the way that sort of witnesses are tried and questioned and then cross-examined, which is sort of where the crux of um, Joe Pesci's character Vinny, the cousin's skill comes in as a litigator, sort of shines through, and that's sort of the whole point is sort of discrediting. And like I mean, you get like a woman with very bad eyesight, um, a man with like dirty screen, and like tire tread markers, and then like you have an expert witness with his partner Mona Lisa Vito, who is like a found to be a car expert and like talks about these things and sort of answers her own cross examination to be an inexplicable witness. Like, I mean, this is more or less how the court proceeds, and like things like they talk about like discovery and like when like Vinny's like, yeah, I even got him to give me all of his evidence like an idiot, and then like but he's like you're legally like required to do that as like as the opposite counsel opposing counsel, like you have to share those things. um But no, I think it's good, and it's funny like you said, and I think part of like the reason that it's in our politics, and to sort of riff off your old letterbox review, is I mean it does sort of show without competent counsel or without counsel, like obviously how quickly somebody that just sort of a simple misunderstanding will sort of the police and the prosecutor will sort of still pursue whoever they feel is they just like believe is guilty, or whatever you want to put it. Like they find a suspect and they will sort of like stick to them no matter
Hmm.
like what the other evidence is, and sort of in spite of everything else, is for as long as they can. And clearly, like I think the sheriff sort of comes around to sort of being given like indisputable proof that like it was somebody else ultimately, but that was like the last like 2 minutes of the movie after the
Hmm.
whole trial had gone through. So like the damage would have very clearly already been done had Vinny not been as sort of competent as he was ultimately
Yeah. By the end,
by the end.
yeah, there's a funny scene in the beginning where what I forget what the judge asked him, but Vinny is like not and like it's like the pre-trial proceeding, and he just needs to say he just
It's
needs to
just
answer
like,
like a question like yes or no or guilty or
yeah,
not guilty or whatever.
yeah, I think it was guilty or not guilty, and he just like he just yeah he was just being very like sort of
But he was like
indignant to the questioning.
but he was trying to like basically start the trial, just
Oh
explain the whole case, and then they like held him in contempt.
yeah.
Um, but anyways, and then but probably the best line is there's a scene that involves a witness giving testimony based on the timing of of how he cooked his grits.
Oh yeah.
And Vinny objects and says, "No self-righteous son or whatever make quick grits."
uh,
Um. Anyways, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really have like a whole lot to say about this movie beyond. Oh well, okay. No, I lied. I do have one other thing to say. The only thing I think would have made this movie better is if it had black characters in it, because I think that would have um really fit with the theme of like being down south and being like outside, because it's like the whole thing is supposed to be like Vinny is like it's like, oh, they're discriminated against because they're like northerners, which is like, I think that is like a a thing, or was a thing at least. I don't know how to what extent that still is true, but it's like, okay, if you really want to make a movie about like outsiders being discriminated against, well, I mean,
mm-hmm.
black people aren't outsiders to the South, but like people being like discriminated against in the South, like you should just make it with black people. But that's neither here nor there.
To be fair, they're Italian. Kind of like sort of threading the needle, sort of splitting the difference. So,
Speaking of splitting the difference,
whoa.
we could split the difference between a good and a bad movie to end this this podcast. Uh,
What?
so, so the good movie. The good movie. So we got two. We're going to end talking about two more recent movies. So one is The Lighthouse from 2019, directed by Robert Eggers. And this movie follows two men. I guess I don't know what their actual job is. They work the lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's a name for that, but lighthouse keepers, I guess, um, are on this island, and I don't really know how to explain what the movie's about, other than it's just their time spent together on the island, and both of them slowly unravel, or at least one of them, if not both of them, slowly losing their mental sanity, and you are never quite sure what's happening and what's real and what's not real. Um, and yeah, that's basically I can't. It's hard to without getting into like a scene by scene breakdown. It's hard to
Right.
really get more than that.
There's the best part about this movie, I think, is there's a non-zero chance that the whole time William Dafoe's character was just like kind of doing a bit and being an asshole instead of being like an absolute maniac. He's just like a prick, which is kind of funny to me.
Yeah, I guess that
He
is
definitely no,
true.
he definitely has like issues or whatever, but like I don't know. This is a weird thing of like one of them's sort of out of it. Like very clearly somebody's lying or like not like mentally like well, but there is a reality in which Willem Dafoe's character is just like an asshole, but not like insane or something, and that's just I don't know. I think there's a lot. I think what I like about this movie a lot is there's a lot of ways to sort of read the relationship and figure out who's like the worst one.
Hmm. Yeah, I stole this joke from someone, I can't remember who, but I what I said in my initial review of the movie was that a lot of your interpretation depends on if you think the character is Willem Dafoe or Willem Defriend.
Yes. Oh, I remember reading that.
Again, I did steal it from somewhere. I just can't remember
Oh,
where,
it's
but
so funny.
I think that is very true for this movie. Yeah, it's very unclear if he's trying to be helpful or like you said, just kind of being a jerk the whole time. I guess also like whether or not there is any sort of like magical mystery with this lighthouse thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously in like a realistic sense, probably not, but it's also a movie, so maybe.
Right.
Although actually, I'm not totally sure. I think I'll just say I think I heard that this was like partially based on um a story that I don't want to say based on a true story because I mean it's not like obviously this is not like
Right.
a true story, but I think it's based on something. Um, but whatever. Um, but anyways, but yeah, so obviously there's not like a really like a magical lighthouse, but in the context of the movie, it could be. But yeah, I think you're right that there's definitely a lot of ways to interpret their relationship. Um, there's definitely people have definitely like read it as like, but like not like a gay relationship
I mean, there's a
necessarily,
lot
but
of
that there's some.
homoeroticism in it,
Yeah, because there's like a lot of like sexual imagery, which
thankfully.
I'm not really sure what to make of per se, but that is one thing you could read into if you chose to. There's not like a whole lot of backstory, so it's kind of hard to
Mm.
gauge like exactly. Like, there's a lot going on with this like mermaid that Robert Pattinson's character uh, keeps seeing, which could just be because William Dafoe's character gives him a little mermaid statue, or right?
Mm.
Or did he bring it with him? I don't
I
remember.
thought he brought it with him.
Okay, yeah, but so it could just be like his imagining of that,
Or
but
no,
it's
he
unclear.
found one.
No, yeah, that's why I wasn't sure because I think the implication is like
He like finds it
Willem
in the
Dafoe
bed or
like
the pillow or
yeah
something.
I feel like the implication was that Willem Dafoe like hid it in his pillow
Mm.
or something, and that was like again part of his like shenanigans or something. But yeah, it
Hmm.
wasn't. Yeah.
Shenanigans is such a funny way to like frame this movie.
um, but yeah, but it's unclear if that mermaid is like supposed to be someone from his past or if it's just kind of his like imagination of that statue for whatever reason. But yeah, you could definitely interpret the relationship in a lot of different ways. However you would interpret it, clearly it deteriorates by the end. It seems that Robert Pattinson's character kills Willem Dafoe's character. Which I'll just say for now, I think both their characters are named Thomas in the movie. It's like Thomas Howard and Thomas Wake,
Hmm.
which is also clearly a choice and why they both named Thomas. But Um, but yeah, it seems that Robert Pattinson's character kills Willem Dafoe's character, but maybe not, because then he reappears but it seems like in any way you slice it, the relationship definitely deteriorates by the end. And yeah, just kind of a thrilling, uh, you know, build up, a slow build for sure, but turns into a lot of tension by the end.
Yeah, I think um, the biggest reaction I've ever gotten out of Justin from a letterbox is when I said that the Lighthouse fulfilled the promise that The Witch laid out as his ability to be a director. I think you were like, the same dude. This is so much better than The Witch.
Well, yeah, even when you just said that now, I literally had that same reaction in my head. Yeah, The Witch is. Did we talk about The Witch
We did talk
before?
about The Witch last year. This is a real. This really brings it back. This is our linchpin.
Yeah, this is in my. I know some people like The Witch. I one day I do kind of want to go back and rewatch The Witch just to confirm. But my thing with The Witch is I feel like there was some tension watching it the first time because I didn't know if something was going to happen. But now that I know nothing happens, I'm like, would I still feel any tension at all?
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I would. But I would say kind of like The Witch. This has like a Halloween feel, or no, not a Halloween feel, but I would put this on a Halloween playlist, movie playlist, if you're going to do that. It's a little bit different than your typical. Like it's obviously not like a slasher or something like that, but I think I would put it as like psychological horror.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good category for it.
I
Uh,
also say the whole movie's in black and white too,
True.
which you don't see a lot of, but I think it works pretty well.
Yeah.
You haven't really noticed that, and I mean, you notice it, but it like makes
The
sense.
settings, like the setting, already kind of feels like it would be that sort of color grading, anyways.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so like besides like maybe their clothes, but like they could also like everything, like nothing in that movie sort of makes you think like, oh, I wonder what color that would be.
Hmm.
So I think you're right that it really lends itself.
All right.
Something that has. So, what about a movie that doesn't lend itself to anything? It has nothing lent to it, Justin. What about just a bad movie? What if we have any of those come out recently?
Yeah, so we'll conclude here just with a roasting of the probably the most recent movie that both of us have seen, which is uh 2020 2020's
Yeah.
Tenet by Christopher Nolan. This movie follows a
The protagonist.
yeah. Well, okay. His name, I don't know if he is referred to by name at all in the movie, but in the credits, he's credited as
I think he
protagonist.
refers to himself as a
He
protagonist.
refers to himself as a protagonist, but he hasn't. He refers to that as like a title. He's basically just like, yeah, I see myself as the protagonist. He doesn't like. It's not like, hello, my name is protagonist.
But it could be.
But then in the credits, his name is
Name is just yeah, it's
protagonist.
just as the capital P protagonist. So
So yeah, I don't. Anyways, but it follows him, um, doing something. They're trying to save the world. It's like a very generic, like save the world thing. It's so okay. Let me. Basically,
it's both a MacGuffin and a black box, if you can believe that.
it's like
Literally.
they just keep like hyping up like it's like, oh, this is worse than nuclear war. This is like worse than anything that we've ever seen before. And it's just like some objects have been sent back and they're like going through time backwards, and it's never explained why, but somehow this is going to like destroy all
I
life on Earth as we know it.
I think it's still just nuclear in nature. I think it's still just like a nuclear bomb. I'm pretty sure it's just like all of the bombs. So
Well, they say
they
it's
do
worse
gas it
than
up
that.
like they gas it up like it's worse, but I'm pretty sure it's still just nuclear in nature because
I I don't know. I
I
feel like
don't
you're
know.
giving it too much credit.
I
It's
maybe
just not explained. But
it's not explained, but it's people from the future are so destitute from the climate crisis that they've decided to just kill us in the present as
Yeah.
well.
Rather than going back in time to fix climate change, they go back in time to kill
Just say
everyone.
fuck you. You guys also get to eat shit, even though this has been a problem since like the Industrial Revolution.
Anyway, so it follows. So that's the setup, and then he goes through and he's trying to like stop the like dealer of these reversed objects.
Kenneth Branagh, a Northern Irishman with a Russian accent for no reason, really.
Uh, and but yeah, but then he doesn't. I don't think he. Yeah, the movie kind of ends with him not stopping it, but then it's like revealed that this was kind of like the first half of his mission, and now he's going to redo the mission backwards or something. I don't know.
Well, I mean, so the other main character has already knows that this works because he's from the future. So that kind of immediately removes the tension once you're aware of that dynamic. If you like ever watch, I mean, like you watch it again, obviously you know like it succeeds, but like I don't like once you realize I don't know, like you kind of figure that out halfway through. You're like, okay, so this guy already knows that it exists because he like says that they were like good friends for years going forward. So like obviously like it doesn't happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think also you can change. Well, I mean, that's one of the things they're like talking about in the movies, whether you can like change the past or the future or whatever, and everyone kind of tells them no, but then in some with some esoteric explanation, the protagonist is like, "Oh, I thought outside the box," and like you can. You remember that scene where he's like talking to that like Indian woman? And he's just,
Oh,
and she's like, yeah, like just give up. Like there's nothing you could do. He's like, no, actually, like I thought differently about it, and I can. And then something I don't even remember what happens there, but yeah, I don't know. This movie's stupid. It doesn't really make any sense.
as somebody who has both uh initially said never introduce time travel in a story. That's my personal take. And then introduce time travel in a story, and it wasn't a great story. I will go back once again to say, don't use time travel in stories. It's not good.
um, yeah, the problem is less. Well, yeah, I mean, time traveling stories is always going to present some issues. There's definitely ways you can work around it. Um, like Phil and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Like, there's time traveling there. No one cares that there's any plot holes or
Well, yeah,
whatever.
because Tenet is so self-serious all of the time. And
Hmm.
like the huge crux of it is the whole thing is like how we're using time travel to both save and destroy the planet. And lo and behold, like when that's the whole thing, it doesn't really work.
Yeah, I think if you're going to use time travel, you have to do it in a way where you start off accepting that there's no way to solve time travel paradoxes. Whereas Christopher Nolan tried to go like big brain and be like, "Oh, I think I can like outthink these paradoxes." And then my sense is like at some point he maybe realized that there was like there are paradoxes for a reason, but he was like too deep in and couldn't do anything about it, and so then just kind of like just released what he had.
I mean, he wrote the whole. You write the script first, so at some point you should have realized at that point that hey, maybe this doesn't work. But I'm Christopher Nolan, so it's going to be an IMAX. But then the action also sucks. Like this, there's this
Hmm.
huge like fight at the end when they're like invading the base, and like it's just a bunch of dudes in sand like shooting their guns at like a 45-degree angle. There's no sense of where anything's happening at all. It's
Hmm.
really on uninteresting. I'll even like than
Yeah.
anything else. Like holy shit.
I don't even think like there's like that one scene where the protagonist is fighting himself
Yeah,
and
that one.
like the fight keeps alternating between stuff that's happening in forward and stuff that's happening
Yeah,
in reverse. I don't even know if that really makes any sense. It like part of like it. like the whole movie is plagued by the fact that like there are like strings and threads that you can pull on that make sense, but then when you start to unravel them, then what they connect to doesn't make any sense at all. The one scene I'll say, this is what I had written in my letterbox review of it, but I think the scene where he first goes into that time machine thing,
Hmm.
inverter, whatever it's called. I think that pretty much sums up the
Oh,
issues
the
with the
car crash and
movie.
all that.
Did you have the subtitles on for that scene?
I watched the first half with my friends and I had to like leave early. So I was like, okay, I don't like anything that's happened so far. I have no idea what's fucking happening and it's not my fault because I haven't been paying attention. And then I finished it like the next day. And I even put like the closed captioning on to make sure I got all the words.
The sound mixing was ass. You couldn't
It's
hear
really
anything
bad.
without
I
the
had
closed
no idea.
captioning.
I had really had no idea what was happening. I was surprised nobody else that I was watching with like was like, "Do you guys know what's happening?" I couldn't see. Okay, I couldn't hear shit about fuck.
I kept turning up the volume, and I was like, oh, "It's too loud," but
So
I
yeah,
can't
like
hear anything
I
though.
it just
Like, what the
blows it
fuck?
out. Yeah, it was really bad. I like don't know. It's just I don't know how that movie like I don't know how that's like the finished product. You know what I mean? Like when nobody would have blamed you for like letting it hold off in theaters like for another like month, year. I don't know how that's the last thing. I think
Yeah,
I don't think I did. That's like with like the ice fire and all that bullshit.
yeah. But when he
Okay.
first gets out, you hear the seagulls cawing,
Okay.
and it's, the subtitles are seagulls calling in reverse.
All right.
So that was how you knew right off the bat that we were in for something here. 'Cause, I mean, yeah, it's hard for me to convey without listening to it, but like it does. Yeah, a seagull calling in reverse just sounds like a seagull cog. It's just a shriek. Like,
Yeah, it's just you know what? Holy shit, listen. Listen. No, it's yeah, that's brutal. Jesus.
um, but anyway, so basically, right before the scene, they're like explain to you um, that everything is going to work in reverse and that cars will drive in reverse, or no, they say like friction will work in
Yeah.
reverse, which will like mess up drive, which I don't know what friction works in reverse means. That's unclear. And then also that like fire is cold for because it's reversed, I guess. And so then he goes in, and then like everything that I just explained to you 30 seconds ago starts to happen. And like and the thing I was like, it's like how if friction is reversed, how is he just walking normally? I mean, he's like
Right.
stumbling a little bit, but like it's not like moonwalking or something. He's just walking forward. But then
Mhm.
when he gets in the car, then like the car is driving weird. I don't know if he's like supposed to be like reversing and that's making him go forward, but he's just going forward. But he's like driving weird, and then the he gets into a car crash and there's like gasoline that spills and then Kenneth Branagh like lights it on fire. Which how do you light the gasoline on fire if fire is in reverse? And then so the gasoline travels or fire travels up the gasoline and explodes the car, but then the car gets encased in ice, even though the gasoline caught on fire. Like the
Mhm.
gasoline didn't freeze, the gasoline caught on fire, but then when it exploded the car, then the car turned to ice somehow. So yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
Nope.
The movie sucks.
Yep. It's yeah, I don't it's he had an okay, he had like a 30% okay idea and then really just elected to run with it. Uh that's it. It's not good. He
Mhm.
just kind of kept going.
All right. Well, that has been our season.
Uh yeah. Artwork is by JAS Art Studios and music was produced by Nicholas Pizzuto.
Rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Facebook and tell a friend or enemy about the show. And join us again next season, which will hopefully be starting soon. Probably will be very similar to this last season, but we need to end this season so we can get the next Halloween episode out, because that's really what the show
It's all
is
about
about.
getting Boostin back out of the closet for the spooky Halloween.
I thought you meant like we were boosting
No,
something, like
no,
someone
your
else's show.
alter ego, your haunted self.
Yeah. So anyway, so we just we just do our annual movie finale, and yeah, so this will be the end of the season. Probably no behind the scenes this season, because the behind the scenes hasn't really changed, other than Alex being lazier. But
Being more. No, yeah. I don't even have a. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
did you listen to either the Drake or Kanye albums?
No, I haven't. I heard Dota's okay. I didn't realize.
Donda.
God damn it. Is it
Do-
Donda? I've been saying Dota this whole show. All
Dora's
right.
the that our like video game or whatever.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, my cousin, I don't know if this is true. It seems right.
Your cousin's friend.
My cousin's friend from Trinidad told me that the reason that Certified Lover Boy was made at all is because Pusha T or somebody else like dropped a diss track just roasting Drake for being an absentee father, and so he made a whole album about how he's actually a good father, kind of, or is going to be one now. Is that right? Is that correct?
Kind of. I'll say I didn't really listen to the lyrics closely enough to be able to like give like an in-depth analysis, but what I will say is this album is very clearly still Drake trying to come back from Pusha T absolutely burying his corpse. Like that, like Drake surprisingly usually like quote unquote wins, you know, in
Trigger
popular
fingers, Twitter
opinion.
fingers, baby.
Yeah, he usually wins, you know, his rap beefs, but Pusha T was the first time that like everyone agreed, oh no, he lost in a way that no one's ever lost. And that was like a couple of years ago. That was like pre-pandemic, I think, and then. And like, yeah, this album is still like trying to respond to it. Like, there's all these like lines about, you know, not even really. It, I mean, yeah. And have you seen the album cover?
Okay, so I had no idea until my friend was like, "Who's the artist that made it? That fucking like hacky like pop guy, like whoever made." He was like, "Do you know who that is?" And I was like, "That name sounds familiar." He goes, "Well, he made Drake's album," and I was like, "Okay." And he goes, "Have you seen it?" I was like, "I don't think so." And then he fucking the pregnant emojis, and I was like, "I saw this all over Twitter. I thought this was a fucking joke, like meme format. I had no fucking clue." That's just the album. Are you out of your fucking mind?
Well, that's just it. Like he's so distraught by what Pusha T did
Well,
that
apparently, yeah. Bush
that
has been in his heart for years, apparently. Just like a cancer.
and it's not even like Drake is saying he's a good father. It's like he's like torn between trying to be like, oh, so what? Like I have a you know secret child. That means I'm cool. But then also being like, yeah, but you know I'm also like, you know a good father to him too. And you know I was only keeping him secret because you know I wanted him to have a good life. Or like it's like it does. Like, the album doesn't make any sense. It's just Drake like still like he's been knocked down. He definitely has a concussion, but he doesn't want to give up yet. So he like gets up and he's stumbling around, and the ref doesn't know whether to call the fight yet or not. And that is kind of what this album is.
Oh my god. Okay. Because that's like crazy. And then. Because my cousin, I think, listened to both. My Trinidadian cousin's friend listened to both. And because he like said that he goes like he's like there's probably like 2 singles on there that are like fine, but then he was he you know like what an iceberg video is.
No.
So it's just like this weird meme format of just it just means like a deep dive on like a specific topic,
Okay.
and um he was like yeah, so I was like before I even listened to the albums I did a Kanye deep dive, and he goes, "Do you know the song Lift Yourself?" He was like, have you listened to I don't even know if that was on an album, but do you know the Kanye song Lift Yourself?
Was that? It might have been on his most recent.
That's it's the Poopty Scoop one. Like, are you
Oh
familiar?
yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yep.
And so he gave me that whole whole thing. Is like, yeah, and that was also at Drake because Drake had that beat ready to drop in 2 days, and he just threw it in there. And apparently that's also back related to the Drake and Pusha T feud. Like
I
they're
didn't
just
know
like
that.
dog apparently, bro. Like oh, because Pusha T's the president of good music. Okay, which is like Kanye's thing. So like well, and this came out in 2018, so yeah, this feud has been going on for like half a decade now.
Wow.
Holy shit. And he was like, listen to it. I was like, what? And he goes, you just have to listen to the last 30 seconds. It's fine. I was like, okay, sounds just like a sample the whole time. And then it's just like poop-de scoop, hoop-de doop. And I was like, that's not real. And he's like, yeah, it is. And I was like, because the one link he sent me was just like a video. I was like, no, it's not. And then I found it on Kanye's official YouTube account. I was like, what do you mean? This was dropped as a single. I was like, I had like a real bad existential crisis about the state of anything. And then and then he told me because it was for the Drake thing. I said, all right, that's actually hilarious. Never mind.
Yeah, that's the first time I heard that. That is hilarious, actually.
Drake's just, and I don't fuck with Drake. Like he can just take these L's. That's hilarious to me. Like I don't really care who wins in that one. But I also haven't listened to Donda. But I'm sure it's like fine. Like I don't think Kanye makes like particularly bad music. I mean, I'm a
It's very
Yeezus.
forgettable. There's a couple of good. There's 2 songs that have sort of stuck in my head, but only because he does this. The album is not finished. That was quick.
Right. Okay, that's what I also heard. Is he just keeps doing like listening parties, but it's still
Well,
like
I mean, it's like the final product is out, but it's clear he rushed
oh, I
it,
see
and I
what you
think
mean.
I heard that he rushed it to beat Certified Lover Boy. But yeah, but anyways, but there's 2 songs that I thought were decent, but I don't know if they would have stuck in my head, except for he does this stupid thing where he does part 1 and part 2
Oh yeah.
of 4 different songs, 2 of which I thought were probably the best songs in the track. But the part 2 is identical to part 1, except it also features like one or multiple guest
Oh
verses.
yeah.
So it's like the one song, like the part 1 is like 5 minutes, and then part 2 is those same 5 minutes plus an extra 6 minutes of guest verses. So that
Jesus.
was been stuck in my head because I listened to it for like close to 20 minutes.
Yeah. Holy shit. That's fascinating.
Anyway, yeah, that was a much longer tangent. I was just trying to
Yeah.
conversation. Might pull up the outro, which I have up now. So